Chapter 1031. What kind of opponent? The crowd was starting to grow restless. There was finally a change in Happy's tactics, but that change alone wasn't enough for them to see through their intentions. The poor commentators, Pan Lin and Li Yibo, saw the change, but they remained very cautious with their words. They had fallen into too many traps because of these players, especially on Happy's side. Yi Shu was definitely the leader of the group. The two of them didn't dare to make any rash guesses, so for the previous childish annoyance, the two could only grind their teeth and talk about other unrelated things. Wu Chen's Dawn Rifle and the other four teammates split up. When Excellent Era arrived, they naturally failed to find them for a third time. This failure didn't seem to deter Excellent Era's players. They carefully searched the area like before, but unfortunately, still discovered nothing. What was Happy planning on doing? The crowd could wait for the answer to appear, but Excellent Era couldn't. They needed to guess and be prepared. When the answer finally came, what if the answer wasn't something they were prepared to defend against? A fourth shot rang out. Excellent Era didn't immediately chase after the source of the gunshot like before. Wait a second, Xiao Shiken gave out his first order of this match. There was one small subtlety in this. Orders were usually given out in the team chat to prevent the opponents from seeing them. However, it seemed as if Xiao Shiken forgot about this detail and announced it for everyone to read. Ha 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 ha, Li Yibo laughed. He was just about to comment on it. Go, but in Excellent Era's team chat, Xiao Shiken unexpectedly gave out a completely opposite order. Li Yibo swallowed his words. Too crafty. I almost fell into a trap again. On the other hand, the crowd was smiling with joy. As Excellent Era's fans, they felt like Xiao Shiken's actions were quick-witted. On Happy's side, their supporters saw Xiao Shiken's actions and shook their heads. Those who play with tactics are too dirty ****. Wei Chen sighed. Yeah, Sun Jeping nodded his head. Just when Team Excellent Era finished pulling off their bluff and prepared to chase after the sound to achieve their aim through a trick, another gunshot rang out. This time, it came from the opposite direction. Team Excellent Era stared blankly. Everyone stared blankly. However, the crowd could at least see that this gunshot had come from the group that split apart from Dawn Rifle. The only one among them who could make a gunshot was their unspecialized, Lord Grimm. The Myriad Manifestation Umbrella's gunform wasn't a handcannon. His attacks make an exploding noise. Lord Grimm had fired anti-tank missiles, but cancelled the skill after the first missile flew out. By doing this, he was able to perfectly replicate the sound of gunfire from Dawn Rifle's handcannon. It must have taken painstaking efforts to perform. However, what was his intention? Just looking at the idea, it was just as childish as the earlier blank shots to get the enemy's attention. But this was a confrontation between two master tacticians. How could such childish thinking appear in this kind of high-level match? What was the point of firing gunshots on opposite sides? All that did was tell the other side that the enemy team had split into two. And then, was Happy hoping for the other side to split up and give chase? Or was Happy hoping for Excellent Era to focus one target? And then how was Happy going to respond to the Excellent Era's decision? The purpose of tactics was to give your side an advantage. However, Happy's move didn't seem to be able to get them any advantage. Wasn't splitting the team apart supposed to be a secret? Wasn't announcing it to the enemy team the same as giving away your advantage? I don't understand. I just don't understand. Pan Lin and Li Yibo had their brows furrowed in deep thought. After a long time, they turned their heads and saw the same puzzled look on each other's face before dumbly turning their heads back to the match. They obviously couldn't explain things that they didn't understand. Deliberately mystifying things? Apart from calling it childish, this was the only other possibility that Li Yibo could think of. However, the problem was that even if Happy was deliberately mystifying things, there had to be some sort of goal in mind. So what if Happy confused Excellent Era with their actions? Team Excellent Era merely hesitated a bit when they heard two gunshots from two different locations. Soon afterwards, Xiao Shiken's life extinguisher resolutely headed towards their original target. The other four characters followed him, maintaining their formation as they continued to move in perfect sync. The 5 players had chosen to bite Wu Chen. Let alone him just being a player from a relegated team, even a top god from the alliance would be at an absolute disadvantage. What was Yi Shu thinking? Everyone was puzzled. This time, it wasn't just Pan Lin and Li Yibo who weren't skilled enough to understand what was going on. The three-team Tiny Herb players were also confused, unable to see through Yishu's intentions. If they couldn't guess, they could only keep watching and wait for the answer to come to them. Team Excellent Era moved swiftly, an advantage of having powerful characters. Strong characters were strong in all aspects. Attack and defense were just one part of the equation. As a team, equipping a character might not simply be for the sole purpose of improving one's own individual strength, but rather for the purpose of synergizing with the other characters in the team. For example, take movement speed. Every character had their own movement speed. The entire team's movement speed depended on the slowest team member. Perhaps this character didn't need high movement speed, but sometimes, in order to increase the speed of the entire team, this character would need to wear equipment that was pointless alone. However, for the team, it was a very meaningful upgrade. And this was another layer to research into silver equipment. It wasn't just about higher stats, but rather how silver equipment interacted with each other in a team. Happy clearly weren't at that level yet. Even in the Alliance, only a few powerhouses had reached this step. Team Excellent Era had a new addition, Life Extinguisher. Just like how the player needed to meld into the team, the character needed to as well. And now it looked like Excellent Era had done a good job. Whether it was Shao Shiken or Life Extinguisher, Team Excellent Era was already a single entity. Their movements didn't seem to be crude in the slightest. Their advantage in movement speed allowed Team Excellent Era to get closer to Team Happy bit by bit. Happy's equipment was simple and crude. The vast majority of their equipment was orange, so their stats were known, giving Excellent Era a rough estimate of the strength of Happy's characters. The movement speed of Happy's character was one of these estimates. After missing 3 times, Excellent Era wasn't shaken because they knew that as long as they kept on chasing, they would soon find the other side. 4th time. Judging by the difference between our movement speeds, we definitely won't miss a 4th time. Shao Shiken had calculated it. However, this time, when they chased after their target, they still missed. Shao Shiken obviously wasn't hoping for Happy to just sit there waiting. When he was certain that they wouldn't miss, he meant that they should see signs of Happy within their field of view. However, when they gave chase for the 4th time, they still didn't see any signs of their target. Bang! At this moment, a new gunshot rang, clearly from up ahead. Hurry up and give chase. A god like Sun Shang obviously had very good judgment. He also had a good idea of their movement speed advantage. He felt like their miss this time was probably because they slowed down a bit every time they reached their target location. If they hurried, they would certain catch the other side the next time. We won't be able to catch them, Shao Shiken suddenly typed. It's only one person here. His movement speed is above our team's, Shao Shiken said. Wu Chen's Dawn rifle wore a full set of orange equipment, so Shao Shiken naturally had a very strong grasp of Dawn rifle's movement speed. Why did Happy split up? Hints for why could finally be seen. It was a very precise tactical change. Shao Shiken had been certain that they would catch their target the 4th time. As a result, Happy split up before this. Happy couldn't compare to Excellent Era in terms of their overall team movement speed, but Wu Chen's Dawn rifle on his own was faster than Excellent Era. What had Happy gained from this minute change? Was it just to continue with their childish annoyance? The crowd members could finally see glimmers of the thinking, but it came with new questions. Neither side had yet to fight yet. They were just running around, baffling everyone. Many people had already gotten impatient. The boos from the crowd had naturally become extremely loud. Excellent Era's fans were very unhappy with Happy's mysterious strategy. At this moment, another gunshot rang out. Wu Chen's Dawn rifle once again reminded Excellent Era where he was located. To give chase or to not give chase? Shao Shiken finally hesitated. If they chased, they definitely wouldn't be able to catch him. If they didn't chase, they wouldn't lose anything, but then what should they do? Shao Shiken felt his head hurt a bit. He suddenly realized that this was a rather unfamiliar situation because up until now, he had been leading the weaker team. Through tactics, they contended with stronger teams. Overwhelming strength? Team Thunderclap had never possessed that. But now, Shao Shiken realized that if he had been in Yishu's position, perhaps he would have had an easier time because beating the strong as the weak was his strength. The strong beating the weak? He had started experiencing that this season, but the opponents that they encountered were too weak. So weak that he couldn't get any experience from it. In the blink of an eye, it was the finals. Now, they had encountered a weak team, but not strong enough to pose a threat. And his opponent was another master tactician, Yi Shu. To Xiao Shiken, his generation had been hugely affected by this god. Their glory knowledge had more or less come from this god. Why else was he called the glory textbook? Quite a few of Xiao Shiken's tactics and strategies had been learned from Yi Shu's matches. His tactical ability wasn't any better than the opposing god. Xiao Shiken suddenly became aware that the opponents he had to beat this match were similar to the former Team Thunderclap that he had once led. Chapter 1032. Attempted exchange. The current situation made Xiao Shiken feel somewhat embarrassed. Besides Xiao Shiken, even his teammates might not notice this small detail. Although Team Excellent Era's captain was Sun Shang, the commanding position had been transferred to him when he joined the team as vice-captain. At this moment Xiao Shiken suddenly became silent. In a situation like this, which required the team to choose, they had come to a sudden halt, almost as if a fire had been extinguished. Xiao Shiken immediately recovered his senses. Coming to a stop like this could be fatal on stage. He needed to quickly adjust himself instead of getting distracted, so he could grasp their current situation. After Xiao Shiken understood that Yi Shu was trying to do what he had been doing the entire time throughout his career, his train of thought became incomparably smooth. Simply put, Yi Shu was Yi Shu, Xiao Shiken was Xiao Shiken. Even if they were doing the same thing, they weren't the same people. Yi Shu was someone Xiao Shiken had studied, but this didn't mean that he completely grasped Yi Shu's patterns. After thinking about things from Yi Shu's perspective, Xiao Shiken was suddenly at a loss. From Yi Shu, he had learned tactics to fight the strong with the weak, and for the most part, it involved deducing many things from what he already knew. During Yi Shu's entire time at Excellent Era, the team hadn't been anywhere near as weak as Thunderclap was. At most they would be disadvantaged during a match, yet they never fought with the mentality of a weak team facing a stronger team. Even during the season when Excellent Era had been in danger of being relegated, no one had thought that they were a weak team. Excellent Era's relegation had been considered something of a miracle. Even taking Happy's current position into consideration, Xiao Shiken still couldn't determine what Happy's intentions were. At the very least, if he were the one playing the Happy card, he wouldn't have brought it to this kind of situation. Should they keep chasing, or should they stop? To be honest, in the current situation, Excellent Era really didn't need to be so vigorous in taking the initiative. Because they had won the group arena, they were currently in the lead. They could simply sit and wait for Happy to come knocking at their door. But the problem was, they were Excellent Era. They were the team that held the clear advantage in this competition. The dignity of a powerhouse prevented them from acting in such a passive manner. This was why Excellent Era's actions in the past had always been proactive and aggressive. They vigorously searched for Team Happy's position, wanting to quickly decide victory or defeat, as if they were the ones falling behind. Except now, they had a target right in front of them, yet they couldn't reach it. Split up? Xiao Shiken shook his head. If they really divided their troops so that one group was fast enough to catch up, they might actually fall into Happy's trap. This way. Xiao Shiken once again sent this message in the public chat. Afterwards, he directed his character to lead Team Excellent Era in the opposite direction. He gave up on chasing after Wu Chen's Dawn rifle, instead charging in the direction of Yi Shu and his Lord Grimm's fake shot. However, his message in the public chat was intended to cause confusion. This way? Which way was this way? Xiao Shiken obviously didn't want Happy to easily deduce his intentions. However, this time, when Wu Chen fired a projectile, he didn't immediately leave. Xiao Shiken's message of this way hadn't done anything to sway him. He waited for a short period of time, but he didn't discover any traces of Team Excellent Era. In Team Happy's chat, Wu Chen reported this occurrence. A moment later, Yi Shu replied with his coordinates. The members of the audience, who paid close attention, could see that these coordinates pointed to the place where Lord Grimm had pretended to fire his shot. This was also in the direction that Team Excellent Era was currently headed. Wu Chen's Dawn rifle decisively altered his course, also heading towards this location. From their omniscient view, the audience could see the whole situation very clearly. Wu Chen's Dawn rifle increased his speed, gradually pressing closer to Team Excellent Era from behind. Yet, Team Happy's other 4 members moved in a wide arc, seeming to want to circle their way behind Dawn rifle. Everyone anxiously watched the scene unfold. Finally, Wu Chen's Dawn rifle caught up to Team Excellent Era. All 5 members of the team were currently within his field of view. However, at the same time, he was also discovered by Excellent Era. Even if they had clearly been focused on getting to their destination, how could an experienced pro team like Excellent Era forget to keep track of their surroundings while moving? Behind, Zhang Jiaxing called out, discovering Dawn rifle during one of his routine sweeps. No one rushed to look back. In a flash, the other 4 members had already created a protective encirclement around Zhang Jiaxing's cleric. The entire team turned around as one. Immediately afterwards, artillery fire rained down. Excellent Era's 5 members easily dodged, but they had no way of returning fire. At this distance, only launchers had the range to fight back. Team Excellent Era's current team composition consisted of 2 battle mages, a striker, a mechanic, and a cleric. Mechanic Life Extinguisher was without a doubt their number 1 long-range attacker. However, compared to Wu Chen's Dawn rifle, his range was insufficient. After releasing his first attack, Dawn rifle had already begun charging up a second attack, then a third. Everyone was struck dumb. Dawn rifle seemed inclined to challenge Excellent Era's entire team alone. Was this really Team Happy's secret weapon? Team Excellent Era obviously wouldn't sit passively or be thrown into disorder by Wu Chen's long-ranged attacks. The team rapidly flew towards Wu Chen, quickly closing the distance. However, Wu Chen wasn't greedy at all. As soon as he saw Team Excellent Era charging towards him, he immediately retreated. He moved even faster than he had previously, even utilizing aerial fire. Team Excellent Era could only watch helplessly. Dawn rifle's movement speed was indeed above their team's. This had already been previously confirmed. However, as soon as they stopped, Wu Chen's Dawn rifle once again happily rained skills down onto them. Was this kiting? Once again, everyone stared blankly. Wu Chen, a completely unknown player, was actually single-handedly kiting Excellent Era. In reality, this kind of max-range offensive couldn't effectively hurt Excellent Era's players because their characters were simply too strong. However, this kind of endless harassment made them unable to just sit still and let it happen. In fact, the reason the team's speed was slower than Dawn rifle was because they were being held back by the slowest member. **** If we were only considering each individuals, any member of Excellent Era outside of Zhang Jiaxing's cleric could surpass Dawn rifle in terms of speed. Leave the cleric behind and kill Dawn rifle first? Just as Xiao Shiken had this thought, his entire body suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. If they really did this, they would be abandoning their cleric. Wouldn't this be just the opportunity Team Happy was looking for? Even if Wu Chen's Dawn rifle was caught and killed this way, to trade his life for Excellent Era's cleric would definitely be worth it. So treacherous, so despicable. Was the initial wild goose chase a ploy to make Excellent Era drop their guard? So they could quickly pick off our cleric? Xiao Shiken's life extinguisher looked around, sweeping the surrounding terrain. As a master tactician, he had an experienced eye, quickly locating a location extremely suited to this kind of sneak attack. Go. This time, the order was only sent in the team chat. Team Excellent Era suddenly changed directions, charging towards the optimal attack location that Xiao Shiken had calculated. Chapter 1033. Heading for Tigerborn Mountains. Xiao Shiken gave the signal to attack and the team immediately obeyed. One Autumn Leaf, who had been at the back of their formation, charged to the front and dashed in the direction Xiao Shiken had pointed out to them along with Chu Fei's combat form. Now knowing that all that was behind them was a far-off Dawn rifle, there was no need for Excellent Era to be so cautious about their backs. The 2 battle mages advanced together, swiftly arriving at the place Xiao Shiken had pointed out to them. A miss. They had missed again. The place Xiao Shiken had predicted would be the best spot for Happy to ambush them was devoid of people. Could it be that Yi Shu had predicted I would realize this and didn't choose this position on purpose? Xiao Shiken unavoidably began to do another mental multiple choice with himself. That's how Team Excellent Era was sent into uncertainty once more. Wu Chen's Dawn rifle courageously moved forward a few steps and fired wildly at them. Though it wasn't any serious threat, Excellent Era's players still had to dodge it, so it still caused them trouble, no? Xiao Shiken might have been considering their strategy, he also managed to react swiftly. In the current Team Excellent Era, the one who could get Dawn rifle in range first was Xiao Shiken's life extinguisher. Who would have thought that Wu Chen's Dawn rifle would immediately and resolutely go into a full retreat the moment he began to act? Xiao Shiken felt helpless. For this player, he had only done research on him just in case. Although Wu Chen had barely appeared in the Challenger League, he had still fought in the Pro League prior to that, so Xiao Shiken had found some resources. Dawn Rifle was a player with a good grasp of the foundations, but no other particularly striking abilities. Xiao Shiken hadn't gone in depth with how they should deal with him. Yet now, it was this player that was causing them the most trouble. He didn't need or want to do anything fantastic, he just wanted to complete his mission without mistakes. Wu Chen carefully maneuvered his Dawn rifle. He was clear on his own skill level. Against Excellent Era, he didn't have the ability to deal any significant damage to them, but he could still accomplish this sort of harassment. This was because this wasn't a task with any true difficulty. Other pro players probably wouldn't be willing to accept such a simple task, but not Wu Chen. He knew he was a player with no talent to shoulder such important tasks. This sort of simple task was a chance for him to do what he could, and he took it very seriously. It was easy to imagine the result of him taking a simple task so seriously. Excellent Era really had gotten frustrated with Wu Chen's harassment. The entire team wouldn't be able to catch up to him, so they could only split up if they wanted to hit him. Xiao Shiken had realized Yishu's intentions, but he had no choice but to comply. This was because he wasn't in command of Thunderclap anymore, where he could lower his position. He was in command of Excellent Era, the strongest team, the only team to ever erect a dynasty. Even being relegated couldn't kill the pride this team had. They thought of themselves as that team that had created a dynasty, and their fans saw them as a powerhouse team that was second to none. Being relegated was nothing more than an accident. A team like this couldn't perform as if they were disadvantaged. When relegated, they were even more sensitive, and even more repulsed by such an idea. They would let Dawn Rifle buzz around them like a fly. Xiao Shiken thought it wouldn't matter in the larger scheme, everyone just had to dodge a little more. However, because they were Team Excellent Era, their fans and the audience wouldn't accept it if they couldn't even deal with a bother like this. Excellent Era couldn't just win. They had to crush their opponents and win with conviction. They had to attack. Team Excellent Era adjusted their direction, chasing after Dawn Rifle. Except, this time, they didn't move as a unit. Xiao Shiken's Life Extinguisher and Chu Fei's combat form brought out their fastest movement speed. They swiftly began to close in on Dawn Rifle while, behind them, Sun Jiang's One Autumn Leaf and Shen Jian's Striker stuck close to and protected their cleric, Woven Shadow. Xiao Shiken actually felt very insecure. He knew that the situation Yishu had been waiting for had appeared. Team Happy definitely would have made arrangements for such a situation. However, he couldn't do anything about it. He had finally been given a clear experience of how a powerhouse had to act even when they knew they shouldn't. Throughout the Challenger League, they could still steamroll their opponents like that, but this time, they were facing an enemy that worried them. Seeing Life Extinguisher and combat form in pursuit so suddenly, Dawn Rifle fled without a care for harassing them anymore. Slow down, Xiao Shiken typed into the channel, directing this mostly towards Chu Fei. If they went at full speed, they would be able to catch up to Dawn Rifle faster, but they would also widen the distance between them and the other three. Knowing that Happy would capitalize on this, Xiao Shiken would naturally do the best he could to weaken what advantage they could gain. He wouldn't use his all to chase after Dawn Rifle, but just choose a speed that could catch up to Dawn Rifle. This way, they wouldn't draw away from One Autumn Leaf and the other two so quickly. Xiao Shiken hoped that Happy would strike sooner than later, yet Happy didn't act. The audience could clearly see that Happy's Lord Grimm and co. were following Dawn Rifle a small ways away and were prepared to coordinate. However, when Dawn Rifle began to retreat, the four darted away from their positions and got into positions for an ambush. Yet, not long after, the four began to move again, leaving their original positions. Now that the arrangements of each team were crystal clear, the commentators Li Yibo and Pan Lin could finally begin to commentate confidently. Happy wants to use the harassment from Dawn Rifle to force Excellent Era to split their forces, Pan Lin said. Yes. In reality, Dawn Rifle can't do very much to harass them, at least not to the point of forcing them. However, it seems like Excellent Era is very confident in their ability to deal with this, Li Yibo added. It doesn't seem like Life Extinguisher and combat form are running in pursuit at full speed, Pan Lin questioned. Yeah, they're trying to preserve the team formation as much as possible. They don't want to split up too much. It seems like Xiao Shiken has a clear understanding of Happy's strategy, Li Yibo said. So that's why Happy hasn't struck yet. Their offensive formation has yet again been shifted, Pan Lin noted. Why isn't Team Excellent Era being more resolute? If they use one Autumn Leaf and combat form to lead the charge and have Xiao Shiken's life extinguisher in the middle with his long-range capabilities, they can split the team into 3 parts and better deal with the situation. That was when Li Yibo voiced an uncertainty, and it really did seem like a more secure arrangement than Xiao Shiken's. This, naturally, wasn't a question Pan Lin could answer. The audience, too, could only be puzzled, feeling that Li Yibo was very correct. Why didn't a master tactician like Xiao Shiken choose a better strategy? Yet, it was Chen Guo on Team Happy's bench, the Chen Guo that usually worried over not being able to understand anything that was going on in the match, grinned smugly at the commentary. For the team competition against Excellent Era, this is our breakthrough point. When Yishu had said this in Team Happy's strategy meeting and pointed at Xiao Shiken's name on their strategy board, Chen Guo had found it extremely strange. Even though she wasn't very skilled, she was also relentlessly thinking of a method on how to beat Excellent Era. When fighting stronger opponents, you had to find your opponent's weak point. This was something Chen Guo understood. However, she had never imagined that Xiao Shiken would be Excellent Era's weak point. Why, though Chen Guo wouldn't take part in the matches, she was still the first person to question this out of curiosity. Because Xiao Shiken still hadn't synced up with Excellent Era's rhythm yet. This was the answer Chen Guo had received. Xiao Shiken's background had influenced a lot of his tactical style and playstyle. For a powerhouse like Excellent Era, Xiao Shiken's tactical style held them back. His detailed, calculated and nitpicking style wasn't noble enough for Team Excellent Era. That was something that Xiao Shiken had been acutely aware of since joining Excellent Era. He had made adjustments and the two sides synced up cheerfully. Unfortunately, they had never met an opponent that could truly test them, because for Excellent Era, the Challenger League was too low a level. Any sort of adjustment would seem seamless at this sort of level. Only strong opponents would be true tests of their success. Happy might not be a powerful opponent, but they were the only true test Excellent Era had been pitted up against since their relegation. Any dissonance that existed between Xiao Shiken and Excellent Era would be tested for here. If there was a problem, they would have to resolve it on the field. If they couldn't resolve it well, more problems might become apparent. Happy's tactics were so simple that they seemed almost childish. However, they had managed to accurately strike at the disharmony between Xiao Shiken and Excellent Era. Xiao Shiken, with his original style, wouldn't have bothered about this sort of childish harassment. However, after taking on Excellent Era, he had to find a way to deal with it. Knowing that a mountain hid tigers, yet heading for those tiger-born mountains anyways. This wasn't Xiao Shiken's preferred style at all, but he had to deal with these problems in such a way. He could only face this with care, but the arrangements he made weren't nearly as proactive and daring as Li Yibo's ideas. This was because Xiao Shiken still subconsciously displayed the style he is most comfortable with in uncertain situations. He didn't want Excellent Era to seem cautious and nervous like a mid to low tier team. Thus, he had used a different method to avoid executing his original cautious method. Team Excellent Era, having split into two, continued to pursue Dawn Rifle, but Dawn Rifle was running for his life and Happy's other members were retreating for their lives. Xiao Shiken might have suppressed his speed, but Happy drew out the duration. In the end, the two groups still managed to pull apart to a distance that Xiao Shiken was reluctant to have. Even Pan Lin couldn't help but sigh in disappointment for Excellent Era. If they had known sooner, life extinguisher and combat form might as well have sped up. That way, they would at least be able to attack Dawn Rifle a couple times. Isn't Excellent Era being a little too cautious? They're so much stronger than Happy, after all. They can totally afford to be a little more headstrong, Li Yibo commented. This time, he really hadn't gotten anything wrong. Xiao Shiken, struggling to make a decision, had reverted to what he was most comfortable with. Team Excellent Era was forced to exercise excessive caution under this style. Chapter 1034. 1v2. Xiao Shiken and Chu Fei accelerated in pursuit of Dawn Rifle, but they weren't thorough enough. In the end, they still pulled a certain amount of distance away from Sun Jiang's group. Even worse, not only were they not getting closer to Dawn Rifle, the two saw signs of the other Happy members. Not good. When Xiao Shiken saw the other members of Happy in that direction, his heart skipped a beat. He thought Happy would disengage and then regroup to ambush their cleric, but judging from their current position, it was obvious that they didn't have such intentions. Their true targets were the players pursuing Dawn Rifle. Stop. After realizing that they had fallen into a trap, Xiao Shiken subconsciously made adjustments, gesturing to Chu Fei to stop his pursuit. He then spun his view to look at the distance between them and the three characters behind him. Retreat. The distance caused Xiao Shiken to feel a lack of security, so he had life extinguisher retreat. Chu Fei's combat form visibly hesitated for a moment, but obeyed the order nonetheless. However, the members of Happy had already appeared. How could they let them escape so easily? Dawn Rifle stopped retreating while the other silhouettes quickly grew clearer. They carried out a fan formation and moved to encircle life extinguisher and combat form. This was indeed a trap. Xiao Shiken felt fortunate for being able to react quickly, so he could retreat in time. The loss shouldn't be too great, right? The loss was indeed insignificant. Even though Happy pressed them fiercely, the other three members of Excellent Era weren't so far behind that they couldn't be seen. Reinforcements arrived in the blink of an eye. Happy only advanced on them, attacking only for a moment, and then retreated before the members of Excellent Era finished grouping up. Xiao Shiken let out a long sigh of relief. He was pretty satisfied with his response towards the situation. However, it was unknown if the commentators, viewers, and other pro players understood his reasoning. Everyone apart from him felt that his choice of action meant an opportunity wasted. Why did he retreat? Pan Lin was very puzzled. Excellent Era is fighting very hesitantly. Since they've already given chase, why did they choose to retreat? Even though Excellent Era had been outnumbered, from the strengths of their pro players and characters, they shouldn't need to escape. Reinforcements would have arrived if they held out a bit longer, so Happy wouldn't have attacked too rashly. By retreating, Happy could attack fiercely without needing to heed the consequences. Excellent Era is currently retreating very quickly. They have no continuity in their attacks at all, Li Yibo spoke. Excellent Era's performance is quite abnormal today, Pan Lin said. Is it because the group arena didn't meet their expectations? Or is it because they've never met a troublesome opponent like Happy in the Challenger League? No matter what the reason may be, Excellent Era shouldn't fight with such a lack of confidence. Li Yibo only mentioned the problem, but was still thinking about the specific reason. Even though he roughly knew what was it specifically? Xiao Shiken is treating Excellent Era like thunderclap. In the end, it was a pro player from Tiny Herb who discovered the exact problem. He lacked comprehensive and high-level practice this season, so he wasn't able to judge thoroughly enough. In stressful situations, he subconsciously responds with the playstyle he used to lead Team Thunderclap, Xu Bin said. Xu Bin had the right to talk about Xiao Shiken. This is because his former team, 301 Degrees, was a mid-tier one along with Xiao Shiken's Thunderclap. The two were direct rivals, so they always fought to the death with each other in order to vie for the spot in the finals. Their matches would greatly impact their final rankings, so they always had to thoroughly investigate each other. Yes. He is now leading Team Excellent Era. With fierce players like Sun Shang, there's no need for him to fight like that. I'd say, if he let Sun Zhang's One Autumn Leaf rush to the front, he might have been able to neutralize Happy's ambush, Liu Xiaobi said. Whatever was said could only remain as words. The match didn't progress like they thought. At this time, Xiao Shiken started to realize that something was wrong. This was thanks to their cleric, Zhang Jiaxing, one of the three members who had caught up to him. Aren't we fighting a bit too passively? I think we can be more proactive, Zhang Jiaxing expressed his opinion. There was only one shot caller, but other players had the right to give advice and speak their thoughts. Among Excellent Era's roster, Zhang Jiaxing was the only player who had been a core member of the team the entire time. Coincidentally, the cleric was a character who needed to be able to observe the general situation, so he could acutely discover what was off today. Xiao Shiken woke up with these words. He immediately became aware that he mistook Excellent Era for Thunderclap when he was commanding. In fact, he had been reminding himself to change his character for the entire season. However, he was still unable to take on his new role with familiarity during crucial moments in the match. The tactical habits he had developed from Thunderclap were still deeply rooted in him. He needed time and matches to erase it. Although he had ample time this year, he didn't have enough matches. The level of the opponents in the Challenger League weren't adequate enough. You're right, we need to be more proactive. Xiao Shiken was not the type to save his face when the problem was found. Saving face was mostly found in powerhouses, so players from medium to small teams wouldn't have this shortcoming even for an all-star. Xiao Shiken immediately made adjustments after noticing the problem. Excellent Era's ace, One Autumn Leaf, finally pushed towards the peak of the formation. Combat form and One Autumn Leaf immediately accelerated in pursuit, while Xiao Shiken's Life Extinguisher acted as a support in the middle. Shen Jian's striker took the responsibility of protecting the team's cleric. Yes, it seems like Excellent Era has finally discovered the problem and is quickly making adjustments, Li Yibo spoke happily. It was not because he felt happy for Excellent Era, but because their adjustments followed the format he thought was best before. He was able to show his skills as a commentator through the comments today, so Li Yibo was rather pleased with himself. Sun Jiang's One Autumn Leaf and Chu Fei's combat form no longer held any reservations. They attacked with full power while moving swiftly. Soon, the retreating characters of Team Happy appeared in the two's field of view. Lord Grimm. The one they were able to catch up to was coincidentally Yi Shu, who had defeated Chu Fei and Sun Shang in the group arena. They were able to meet in the team competition again. Dragon breaks the ranks. Dragon breaks the ranks. The two battle mages of Excellent Era, One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form, suddenly used this high-level move. The two characters raced out in sync. Yet after dashing out, they immediately pulled a distance between them. It wasn't a coincidence. This was obviously a combination that the battle mage duo were trained to do. The opponent they teamed up in challenging was the person who had brought battle mages to the pinnacle. Boom boom boom. Lord Grimm swept the myriad manifestations umbrella, and 3 artillery shells were sent towards the two challengers from the umbrella's tip. This attack couldn't stop Dragon Breaks the Ranks' momentum at all, but Lord Grimm was able to fly a great distance backwards using anti-tank missiles recoil. He then swung the myriad manifestations umbrella up over his head and a rotor wing twirled above his head as he flew up into the sky. The moment his feet left the ground, Sun Jiang's One Autumn Leaf arrived. When he saw Lord Grimm flying up, he readjusted Evil Annihilation's trajectory, but he was too late. One Autumn Leaf speedily swept across, but hit nothing. Combat Form, who was a step slower, naturally ended up in a similar situation. However, the two Dragon Breaks the Ranks still came out from below, causing him to sway to and fro due to the strong winds from the attacks. The force from their attacks could clearly be seen. While rocking in midair, Lord Grimm retracted the rotor wing and unsheathed his tachi. He tilted his body in midair and used a sword draw towards the two, who had just used a high-level skill. Dragon Breaks the Ranks could be quickly cancelled with no ending lag, and Sun Shang and Chu Fei's reactions were very quick. One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form jumped to the left and right respectively, dodging the sword slash from sword draw. Falling Light Blade. Lord Grimm used this skill afterwards, aiming for the space between the two characters. The skill had a small attack range, but it was just enough to reach the two. But because it was only just enough to reach them, One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form only had to take a step back in order to escape from the attack range. Two spears glinted as they crossed at an angle towards Lord Grimm. Slide kick. Lord Grimm didn't pause after falling Light Blade and slipped away with a slide kick. By matching skills across different classes, he used the most prominent feature of an unspecialized. When Excellent Era learned they were going against Yishu's unspecialized, they trained specifically for him. The players in Team Excellent Era were all familiar with what skills an unspecialized could use. This was done by interpreting the unspecialized as the 25th class. Even though they were familiar with the possible skills available to an unspecialized, Excellent Era, the team who was most familiar with Yishu, was unable to predict how Yishu would use the skills. When Yishu was in the team, he focused his efforts on battle mages. However, this was only 1/24 of his battle capabilities when applying their prior knowledge to his unspecialized. By changing his class, Excellent Era's familiarity towards Yishu became extremely limited. A slide kick after falling Light Blade? Sun Shang and Chu Fei's reactions were relatively quick, but still a beat too slow. The spears the two characters held weren't able to catch Lord Grimm. After Lord Grimm dashed away with the slide kick, he threw a grenade behind him. One autumn leaf in combat form leapt aside once again, and the explosion's flames flashed between the two characters. One autumn leaf in combat form turned around to chase him, but a purple fog rose up after they took 2 steps. They happened to step onto a poison gas trap. The two were completely unaware when Lord Grimm had planted this trap. The stadium bubbled with excitement. Everyone thought Yishu's Lord Grimm would immediately find a chance to break away and leave, but from what they were seeing, this guy was carrying out a 1v2. The audience had an omniscient view, so they also knew that the other members of Happy were pushing towards Excellent Era to ambush their cleric. Chapter 1035. Cut off from the team. The team competition between Happy and Excellent Era had completely unfolded. In the beginning, Excellent Era nipped at Happy's heels, refusing to let up until they finally caught up and started attacking, but the crowd could see that Team Happy's Yishu was performing a 1v2, while the other 4 were preparing to ambush Excellent Era from the rear. Team Excellent Era was clearly unaware of it. Xiao Shiken had just realized that he wasn't being daring enough, so he adopted a more proactive attitude. On the other hand, Team Happy had already changed their strategy. The commentators Pan Lin and Li Yibo saw these changes, but restrained themselves from making any early conclusions. It was only when the movements of Team Happy's Soft Mist, Dawn Rifle, 1-inch Ash, and Little Cold Hands became very obvious did they dare to comment on it. How unexpected. It's simply too unexpected, Li Yibo sighed. We were just talking about how Team Excellent Era was playing a bit too conservatively, unlike a strong team. In the blink of an eye, it's Happy that's moving out in an imposing manner. Happy's ace player is pinning down Excellent Era's main force, while the others are preparing for a sneak attack from the rear. This is a standard strategy for a powerhouse team with a top-tier ace player. Li Yibo's statement woke up many people. Indeed, Happy's current strategy was a standard powerhouse strategy. By using a top player, a character to pin down as many opponents as possible, would allow for more openings to attack. This principle was applicable to many sports. For example, in basketball, a skilled player might have 2 or 3 defenders on him, giving his other teammates more openings and opportunities to score. But the problem was that the powerhouse should be Team Excellent Era. But in this match, it was Happy employing this strategy. Wasn't that kind of weird? For this strategy to work, the ace player's performance is crucial. Yishu probably isn't a stranger towards this strategy, but the problem is that the current him is no longer the battle god Yichu from before. Right now, he's facing a pincer attack from Sun Shang and Chu Fei. One autumn leaf doesn't need to be mentioned. Even Chu Fei's combat form is a formidable character. Can Yishu hold on? Pan Lin spoke swiftly. Can he hold on? The answer didn't matter. Team Excellent Era's rear had already caught on fire. Team Happy's timing had been perfectly executed. They didn't let Yishu take 2 pressure alone. His main purpose was to draw the attention of Team Excellent Era and have them pull away from each other. Now, Happy's group of 4 got into position and charged forward without any hesitation. Dragon breaks the ranks. By the time Shen Jian noticed the ambush, Soft Mist's spear had already arrived. Excellent Era thought that Dawn Rifle and 1-inch Ash were ahead of them, but those 2 had now suddenly appeared at their flank within attack range. Shen Jian's responsibility was to defend their healer, so he naturally stepped forward and acted as a meat shield. He had his striker step forward and shield Zhang Jiaxin's cleric with his body. Soft Mist's dragon breaks the ranks hit him square in the stomach, but it failed to send him flying. The instant that Shen Jian stepped forward, he immediately activated reinforced iron bones. Under this skill's effect, his striker wouldn't be pushed back by the knockback. Immediately afterwards, he made his counterattack towards Soft Mist. Suddenly, a satellite beam descended from the sky, completely enveloping him. Wu Chen's Dawn Rifle had shot out a high-level skill in coordination with Soft Mist's attack. Tang Ru didn't fight with Shen Jian. She had Soft Mist circle around and attack Zhang Jiaxin's cleric, Woven Shadow. Zhang Jiaxin deserved to be the healer for a powerhouse like Team Excellent Era. He didn't panic. In the team competition, the healer was often a priority target. Staying calm in these situations was a fundamental trait that every healer needed. As someone qualified to be part of a powerhouse's starting lineup, he obviously wouldn't be lacking in this regard. The instant Shen Jian did his job, Zhang Jiaxin had his cleric retreat. In these situations, the healer needed to win as much time as possible because no team would let their healer die so easily. When a healer was attacked, the team would immediately come to save him, so the healer needed to minimize the losses they would take during this period of time and coordinate with his teammates coming to the rescue. As Zhang Jiaxin had woven Shadow Retreat, he grasped his current situation. Excellent Era's formation was still intact. As soon as Happy launched their ambush, Life Extinguisher changed directions and went back to assist his team's cleric. This was already enough to make Zhang Jiaxin feel at peace. 3v4. With Excellent Era's strength, Zhang Jiaxin felt like there shouldn't be any problem. With this support, Zhang Jiaxin became even more calm. When he saw Soft Mist charge directly towards him, he had his woven shadow retreat even faster. Kiting Tang Ru for some time was doable for Zhang Jiaxin, but doing that wasn't smart. Zhang Jiaxin grasped Happy's formation. Tang Ru's Soft Mist was at the very front and, from what he understood, despite this player being very pretty, her aggressiveness on stage didn't lose out to any male player. Zhang Jiaxin had his woven shadow continue to retreat. He wanted to lure Soft Mist in further to pull her away from her team. That way, when Excellent Era counterattacked, she would become Happy's burden. In this short instant, being able to come up with this kind of plan was enough to show his worth as an experienced player, but when he saw the way Soft Mist was holding her spear, Zhang Jiaxin suddenly felt like something wasn't right. Behind you. Before Zhang Jiaxin could yell out his warning, Soft Mist already turned around 180 degrees and thrust forward with her spear. Magic waves surged forth. It was a rising dragon soars the sky. At this distance, it would be a back attack. Hit. Shen Jian had been struggling due to the combo from Dawn Rifle's satellite beam. At the same time, he had to pay attention to all of the other members of Happy. Soft Mist didn't attack him and instead circled around, so he naturally thought that she was going for their cleric. As a result, he didn't even think that Soft Mist would be circling around to attack him from behind. It was an extremely powerful attack too. After being hit, he was sent flying away. By activating Reinforced Iron Bones, he could resist the effects of most attacks, but a high-level skill like Rising Dragon Soars the Sky had grabbed priority, the one flaw of Reinforced Iron Bones. He was sent flying. As a result, it wasn't Soft Mist splitting apart from the team, but him. He landed in a location where Chao Yifan had set up numerous ghost boundaries. From this, it could be seen that Happy had been plotting a one-wave offense the entire time.